Back with us on the SportsMax zone. Barbados Tridents entered the 2020 CPL brimming with confidence after their championship-winning turn in last year's tournament. They entered battle with the world's #1 T20 bowler, Rashid Khan, in their ranks, and it appeared they were set for another strong campaign. But performances were dismal, and the Tridents finished 5th of the 6 teams, failing to even make the playoffs. In fact, Jason Holder's men won only 3 of their 10 games, so they opened with a win over the Patriots. They then lost to the Zooks, lost to the Knight Riders, lost to the Patriots, got by the Tallows on the Duckworth-Lewis. It was a day-night game, beg your pardon. They beat the Tallows by 36 runs. They lost again to the Knight Riders, lost to the Zooks, lost to the Amazon Warriors, lost to the Amazon Warriors, and they finished their preliminary round performance with a 7-wicket win over the Tallows. By that time, the damage had already been done. The leg had gangrened and had to be cut off. Now, the Tridents struggled with their batting, registering 3 totals of less than 100 runs on 3 occasions, the most by any team. Amid the mess, though, 2 of their batsmen did aggregate more than 200 runs, Kyle Mears and Johnson Charles, and the skipper falling 8 runs short of the 200-run mark. The averages, nothing to write home about, and the high scores, Kyle Mears top scoring with 85, the highest individual score by any of the Tridents batsmen. On the bowling side, 2 of their bowlers cracked double digits in terms of the number of wickets taken, Holder and Khan. Reefer Hayden Walsh Jr., who was a revelation in the tournament last year, he only had 7, and Santner had 6. The public relations manager for the Tridents, Nikhil Uttam Chandani, joins us now to review the season. Welcome to the SportsMax Zone, sir.
Yes, hello, George. Thank you so much to the SportsMax team for having me.
Excellent. Through your eyes, tell me the story of this 2020 CPL from the Tridents' perspective.
I think, obviously it was a disappointing performance when you look at the result, obviously not making the playoffs after having such a great season in 2019. But I think, it's been a difficult season for not only the Tridents, but for all the teams, given the circumstances, the ongoing pandemic, etc. But yeah, you would still expect a team of the magnitude that I thought we were going into the tournament with, especially on paper. The sort of names that we had, the performances, the West Indies players as well. So I would never say the caliber of player wasn't there. I just think, it came down to probably not being able to execute well on the day. And we know cricket being that sport where, it's played on the day. So I guess so it went. Obviously, not the ideal tournament for us, but I think still a lot of positive to pick out from a Tridents perspective.
Well, I want to ask you about those positives because looking on for us, there are so many things that went wrong. We're going to talk about some of those. But let me ask you, what went right, but what are you optimistic about given the experience this season?
Yeah, I think especially to start, our young players, Naeem Young, Joshua Bishop, 2 of our emerging players. I think Joshua Bishop has been with the Tridents for a couple of years now, and this year he played 2 games. But what I definitely saw from him was a left-arm spinner who is able to bowl in the power play. And I think looking at beyond just the CPL, West Indies cricket on a whole, that is a model that a lot of international teams using a left-arm spinner in the power play is using. So I think Josh, he's humble, he's hardworking, and he wants it a lot. So to see him do well as Naeem Young, who came in after the Under-19 World Cup into the Trident side, I think the 2 guys, are very good, and they could be, the future of the Tridents and by extension, the future of West Indies cricket.
Yeah, Alex, when I saw the Tridents at Sabina Park last year against the Tallowas, they lost the game, but I saw something that I said, they didn't play like a team that deserved to lose that particular game. I can say that I didn't think they'd go from strength to strength to win the tournament, but obviously they did. Compare, Alex, for me, the vibe you got from the Tridents last season as they went from strength to eventual champions to what they emanated this season in the bubble.
Okay, good question. I think a couple of things. I think the year that they won the championship, 2019, let's remember that they didn't play great that entire tournament. The CPL is a long tournament, 5 weeks, 6 weeks of games. So, there's a beginning, there's a middle and end. And similarly, you showed a graph there which showed the results for 2020, but you know what it's like, George. The stats don't always tell the story.
Yes.
So having won the first two games, they lost that game from Duckworth Lewis against the Zooks, rather unluckily, up the top. And then I think the order, Nikhil, you correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, have a look at this. So that second game, they lost that there a little unluckily. Anyway, Knight Riders beat everyone. I think they would have been sorry to be beaten by the Patriots because the Patriots were down and out by that time. But you see, when the Knight Riders beat Trinidad Tridents by 2 wickets, it felt like the campaign for the Barbados Tridents ended there because they were in a very winning position. And of course, they got Kieran Pollard. I didn't think there was any big deal about losing that game. I know they would have been disappointed to lose, but I thought Kieran Pollard took it away from them. But the very next day, the very next 2 or 3 games after that, it was disaster. The next game after that, they bowled out the Zooks for 92 runs and didn't defend that. So something happened between that TKR game and those next 3 games. And my question, I guess my question to Nikhil would be, what difference did not having Phil Simmons on board this year make? I was surprised not to see Phil Simmons back with the Tridents this year. He was such a big influence on the team.
Well, Alice, I think is a really good question. I think, Phil not coming back was, a matter that I cannot personally speak on. But in terms of his presence, we know Phil as a great coach, and he's, an amazing leader for the West Indies. But I also thought, Trevor Penny, who was our head coach this year and who was an assistant coach last year, was also capable of doing the job. He's got a really good wealth of experience behind him, coaching all over the world, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, etc. So I don't think I had any doubts about Trevor Penny, and I don't think, speaking for the players, they had any doubts prior to the tournament either. Yes, it would have been great to have Phil, but I think we still had confidence in TP to get the job done and the players to get the job done. I just think, as I said before, it came down to execution. And just to touch on your point there about that Trinidad game, I think it made, it definitely took the wind out of our sail because, as you mentioned, in 2019, we are a team that, in my opinion, my personal opinion, we play off of momentum. So after we beat Jamaica 2 days before, I thought we definitely played our best brand of cricket that day. And then against Trinidad, we really had them in a good position. I'd gotten some early wickets, had a good score on the board. But when you have a knot like 73 and 30 balls, I think it really can do a lot, to the nature of your team and in terms of the mental. So I think that was a really tough loss to take. And then with the tournament being so close, the games being so close to each other, it was always hard to recover from that.
Nikhil, not once did I see the Barbados exiting the tournament in the manner in which they did. When you all signed Rashid Khan, I felt like this is it, Barbados Tridents. They kept the core of the winning team last year, and of course they brought in somebody that I have a lot of time for, Rashid Khan. So there's no way that they're not going to put up a fight. Obviously the opposite happened. How was it working with Rashid Khan, and of course, how did he gel with the rest of the team?
Oh, I think Rashid was superb. He's a world-class bowler, the number 1 T20 bowler, but he's not the number 1 T20 bowler, by chance. He's an excellent player. I think he did really well in terms of mentoring some of the younger guys. And not only Rashid, but by extension, Mitchell Santner, Corey Anderson. These guys are guys that are very experienced, have done it, played it all around the world. So I definitely have to, compliment the overseas players on their impact to the Barbados Tridents this year. Yes, we couldn't get it done, but I think Rashid Khan, he may say that he wanted to bowl a bit better, but to still take 11 wickets. And I thought he picked up wickets at crucial times as well. So, yeah, it was great, in my personal opinion, having Rashid with the team this year.
As the Barbados Tridents. Alex, go ahead. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, Nikhil, would you say, you mentioned Mitch Santner. I don't think enough is said about him. I thought he had such a great tournament. The captain also had a pretty decent tournament. We saw a wonderful knock by Kyle Mayers. So there were bits and pieces of really good stuff. I know Rashid Khan would agree he didn't have his best tournament, but he was still impactful and effective. But somehow it didn't seem you could put a team performance together. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you said, we've had performances, here and there. I think the Kyle Mayers 85 was a superb innings. And I think for Kyle Mayers, another positive, George, that I wanted to point out as well, Kyle Mayers, beyond the CPL, looking at West Indies cricket, the fact that Kyle Mayers has scored 654 runs in the 4-day format, now coming to follow up with a CPL performance, he's one for the future, in my opinion, for West Indies cricket. So looking at it beyond the CPL, I think Kyle Mayers is another great find and great to see him back in the cricket. But yes, Alex, I think probably we were short on 1 or 2 occasions of putting that genuine team performance in. And that's why I thought in that Jamaica game, we really played a good brand of cricket in both Jamaica games, actually. But then I guess that individual brilliance by Kieran Pollard really took it away from us.
Yeah, Alex, you know, I would have, well, you know, the vibe in the SportsMax zone room when you're watching the CPL, Alex, you've driven a lot of that vibe over time. And I can tell you that Pollard onslaught, it was as if we were watching live as the spirit horse left the collective body of the Barbados Tridents. I must tell you, and you know.
I need to correct Nikhil. It wasn't 30 balls, it was 24 balls.
There you go.
It was quick.
There you go. Nick, Nick, we're out of time. Nick, thank you for speaking with us. I'm sure we'll be talking again. And I hope, Nick, as an Arsenal fan, that your Gunners will give you more joy this season than your Tridents have done in this year's CPL.
Thank you very much, George. Yes, the Gunners, we're going to challenge for the Prem this year, but I'm glad to see you've done your homework. And the Arsenal, go Gunners, go.
There you go. Be careful with that finger sign, Nick. It's very political in Jamaica.
Oh, no, I did the peace sign. Peace
Well,
sign.
be very careful with that sign. It's a political symbol in Jamaica.
No problem,
Never mind, my friend. All the best. Thank you for talking with us.
Thanks a lot, man.
There you go. Alex, just one before we go, Alex. Just one, Mr. Director, just indulge me. Alex, the Tridents, I must say that, well, it was very disappointing to see a defending champion put up that kind of defense. And 3 totals under 100, the writing was on the wall from early in the tournament that the Tridents wouldn't fire this year.
The 3 back-to-back sub-100 totals was, I think Nikhil did very well in contextualizing it within West Indies cricket. That was the heartbreak for me. And you know, of course, Guyana produces wonderful cricketers. So does Jamaica, so does TNT. But you know, Barbados considers itself the mecca of cricket in the Caribbean. So believe me, I can't even think what the team members' phones looked like at the end of those games. I know what my phone looked like. It was dreadful disappointment here in Barbados, and I know they will be gunning to come out strong in 2021.
There you go. And for those who are wondering about the Spirit Horse reference, you should have watched Young Guns 1 and 2. Back with more on the SportsMax at the track.